Okay, I just got done looking through this, actually, pretty much reading everything about this little booklet that I can't remember who made it, but anyway, it's entitled Preventing Gun Violence Through Effective Messaging. And it's basically just a little guide for anti-gun groups and people to get a little education on how to speak about preventing gun violence. Note that they're not actually doing, to do it. And here's some of the points that I want to put out and discuss. And this is a lot, so it's probably going to be a two-part video. 1. Advocates for gun violence prevention win the logical debate, but lose on a more emotional terms. Yeah, okay, I'll kind of agree to that, but the law and things, they are not an emotional issue. They are a logical issue. You don't want to be making a lot of rash decisions in an emotional state. Okay? So, kind of hurts your argument there. The serious personal toll that gun violence takes, this is some key points. The serious personal toll that gun violence takes on personal lives. That's what you should talk about. You should talk about people's right to be free from violence in their communities. And 3, the changing nature of weapons towards more powerful military-style ones that make us less safe. Because apparently, I'm not going to really talk too much about the first two, because gun violence does take a toll on people's lives, and people do have the right to be free from violence in their communities and everywhere. But the third one, so you're telling me that it's the gun's fault that people kill each other. It's basically what you're kind of sort of saying there. The NRA is seen as a mainstream organization by most Americans. Yeah, okay. It is far better to discuss the NRA in terms of its role of... Let me start that over. It is far better to discuss the NRA in terms of the role its officials play in preventing people and communities from protecting themselves. How? How is advocating the right of self-defense and the right to own and carry tools of self-defense stopping them from protecting themselves? That just makes no sense. What's more, the fact that policies advocated by the NRA put law enforcement officials at risk seriously weakens the NRA's arguments. Can you tell me some of these policies that the NRA put out that puts police officers at risk? By the way, also, some of these would be questions to answer when you get asked these. By the way, look this up, because this is very important information to have, because this is what they're going to argue. Here are some of the facts that met the test and the research of things that you should be talking about. There are no background checks or ID requirements in most states for private sales, including private sales at gun shows. There are virtually no restrictions on the type of weapons available for purchase in America, including assault weapons and ammunition magazines that store up to 100 bullets and can shoot 20 rounds in 10 seconds. Police and law enforcement officers are more at risk due to availability and power of new weapons. Again, so it's okay if a cop gets shot by a .22, but if he gets shot by a .50 caliber, that's bad. All of your background checks and restriction arguments kind of go out the window, because I thought we were talking about stopping gun violence by criminals, not law-abiding citizens. There's a defining line that you need to put out very quickly. Are you talking about banning guns, or are you talking about stopping violence by criminals? It's just not about... Some of these things you really need to pay attention to, because I'm going to come back and be the opposite later on. It's not just about words. Powerful and engaging images are vitally important reinforcers of strong messages. For example, intimidating images of military-style weapons help bring to life the point that we are dealing with a different situation than in earlier times. First off, keep in mind that they're encouraging to use scary images, okay? Secondly, 30 years before the advent of assault weapons, things like the Stimgura 44, M16s, AK-47s, those were assault weapons. The M14 was technically in the military parlance, it's a battle rifle. But that's what it was used for. It was used for ground combat. Okay? Before that, the M1 Garand was the ground combat weapon. Before that, the 1903 Springfield was a ground combat weapon. So, it's not like these weapons are just all of a sudden brand new and out there. Okay, by the way, the AK-47 came from 1947. The M16 came from, I think, 70-something is when it was first popped out and everything. So they're not like, boom, all of a sudden new, unleashed upon the world. They've been here for years. In fact, the M16 and the AK-47 have been around since I was born. Okay? And a lot of the sporting arms that are okay are derivative of military weapons. So it's not like all of a sudden now we have access to military grade weapons. We always had access to military grade weapons. Always focus on emotional and high and value-driven arguments about gun violence, not the political food fight in Washington or wonky statistics. First of all, what is a wonky statistic? All statistics are generally wonky. Okay? Because depending on how I approach you, will give me a different answer. And again, focus on the emotional. Tell stories with images and feelings. Again, playing on the emotion. Claim moral authority in the mantle of freedom. I love that one. I am morally right. They are wrong. I don't want you to say that to me because you're putting yourself before me. You're putting yourself higher than me. Emphasize that extraordinarily dangerous military-style weapons are now within easy reach across America. Did you know that before 1936 you could order a Thompson submachine gun through the mail and it'd be delivered to your door? That's military style. And again, military style weapons means looks like. Okay? It's styled after. It is not. Anyway, but before 1936, you could buy a fully automatic weapon through the mail, have it delivered to your house, no background check, nothing. But yet we didn't have the violent crime rate we do today. Interesting. Here's some little do's and don'ts. Do talk about preventing violence. Don't talk about gun control. There was a research done years ago. It was about the shift from gun control to, common sense gun laws, preventing violence and things like this, because the gun control term was becoming negative because it was focusing on the control. Okay? Because control is a bad word because control means I want you to do what I want to do. Okay, so they don't want you to think that. Always start with the pain and anguish that gun violence brings into people's lives. Again, let's play on the emotion. Let's play on the fear. I'm going to skip that one. Oh, here we go. This is what they're saying, when a strongest opposing argument against gun control is silence. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that opponents seldom address gun violence directly. Well, that's not totally true. So the counter by, you don't hear much from the NRA and their allies when violence strikes. That's because they can't possibly defend the reckless agenda in the face of such terrible human pain and suffering. Or maybe it's because they're being respectful to the victims. Because they don't want the victims to look at them and say, oh, you're using my tragedy, my child's death, my parents' death, my family's death to further your cause. That's exactly what these anti-gun people want to, or do. When a tragedy strikes up, they're the first ones to say, "Oh, look at this person over here that was just killed. We need to stop gun control. We need to end gun ownership because look at people getting killed. Look what happened." Well, the gun groups are generally, yes, look what happened. This is a tragedy. This is a moment for healing, and then we'll talk about the issues. Okay, let this family mourn for at least a couple of hours or maybe a day to get over the loss of their family members before we start pounding their door, asking them to cry on camera to further my cause. If an honest citizen with a gun were present, this might not have happened. There is not a shred of credible evidence that more guns and more shooting save people's lives. More guns and more shooting mean more tragedy. If that is true, then how come most of these tragedies happen at gun-free zones where they know people will not be carrying guns? Think about it. Start with people, not laws. I'm not going to argue that one. I agree with that one. Because the laws don't do anything to people who don't give a crap about the law. But people can. Make it clear that weak and reckless policies put weapons in the hands of dangerous people. Yes, they do. I'm not going to lie. Yes, they do. Weak and reckless policies put weapons in the hands of dangerous people. How? Simply because they take them out of the hands of undangerous people. Because this is how it works out, okay? Let me use a box of matches as an example. Each one of these is a gun. This person is a dangerous person. This person is a responsible person. See how they kind of balance each other out? Now when you take that one away, only the dangerous person has a gun. Oops. Be clear that we know how to protect people from gun violence, which makes failure to act inexcusable. Okay. Why haven't you done it? So you're telling me you know how to protect people from gun violence and you didn't do anything? That makes you as liable as the person who did the violence. In my opinion, anyway. If you stand there and watch a person beat a child to death and do absolutely nothing, you are responsible for that death as much as the person who beat the child. So basically, you're telling people that I know how to prevent gun violence, but I'm not doing it. Okay. Our police officers are at risk every day when they confront criminals who are armed to the teeth with military-style weapons that are freely available. That's really interesting considering that finding military-style weapons on a criminal is so rare that it's newsworthy. And you know about it because anti-gun groups will be like, look, this criminal was found with an AK-47. Look. 400 cases. Before that, they didn't find anything, an AK-47. But that one, you have to let everyone know it happened. Because it's that common. And police officers are at risk every day, regardless of what style of weapons the criminals have. Emphasize that NRA lobbyists have not only gutted common sense laws, but actively promoted reckless measures that put more people at risk. For example, got examples this time, a federal law allowing gun carrying in America's national parks. I'm going to go step by step. A lot of illegal moonshiners, a lot of illegal drug farms are done in America's natural parks. And they will kill you if you're out camping and happen to stumble upon it. A federal law allowing guns on Amtrak trains, because why should you be able to bring your gun with you when you go someplace? That's just insane. Congressional appropriations writers that prohibit policymakers, law enforcement, researchers, and advocates from accessing crime gun trace data. Then if that's true, then why do you always talk about look how many guns are being traced to this and that and that? State laws that allow people to carry loaded handguns in bars, schools, and places of worship. You're right, that's insane. To make more places where people cannot defend themselves effectively. It makes more sense to say, you know what? Criminals, go to the bars, go to schools, and go to places of worship and kill people and murder and rape and rob, because those places don't allow people to protect themselves. Or anyone else. Alright, I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to put it on part 2.